The last video described how to glue the stator to the frame. Now, when you have the diaphragm already in place and you don't want to tear it off just to glue the stator, this is what I do to glue the stator to the frame without taking the diaphragm off. You need to spot glue all of the places that I mentioned in the last video, and then what this is about to describe is how to weight down the stator so that it glues nice and firmly against the frame. So let's continue. A whole series of these underneath to hold it down while the glue is setting and drying. I can feel that that's pulling against the frame, so it's doing its job. Now, one thing to notice, I'll take it off, unscrew it. It's generally only about half a turn that you need. The thing with this screw is that you grind off the tip so it's not sharp and that it's nice and round and won't pierce the diaphragm. That's obviously very important. Make sure that it's as rounded off as you possibly can. If you look closely at the middle, okay, so you can see the stator is quite loose in the middle there, and you can push it down. So if I put the little screw in, just in one of the holes, just slightly turn it to grip it. There we go. Just enough to grip it. So take the weight away, you can still see it's moving. Allow the weight to fall on the screw, and you can see now that the diaphragm is above the stator. The stator is now sitting on the frame as it should. Now that's only one weight, so if I put a whole series of these underneath, that will hold the stator against the frame. The diaphragm is now above the thing, and if you very carefully you can feel where the screw head is, but don't force it, just leave it there. The thing is, if you accidentally puncture it, okay, you've got to replace the diaphragm, so be it, that's life. But if you can get away with not taking it off when you feel that the diaphragm is quite happy in place and good and solid, then this method can work, and it does. I've done this before. Right, good luck. This is a white panel, which is a bit with a clear coating on the diaphragm, so it's a little bit easier to see. So what I'll do is I'll put the screw in here. Hopefully you can see it. I'll just it's just there. I don't want to press too hard, but you can just see it poking through, almost touching the diaphragm. Sometimes they do touch the diaphragm. Don't worry, but don't mess with it too much. That's it underneath. Add the weight on. This is a fairly delicate procedure, so once again you have to take your time and be careful. Just make sure that the tip of that screw is nice and rounded. You can't take too much off the height or it won't grip into the hole. It's just got to be that right compromise. But so what? Yes, just with your fingers, just screw it in until it's nice and firm, and then with the swivel and hook from your local fishing shop. Once they're all on, and you do this, you add the weights from underneath, otherwise everything's flopping around. You don't want that. So from underneath you let it hang like that. I'll show you. Here is my collection of weights, each with a little bit of fishing line on to be able to hook onto the hook of the screw and swivel, and collection of screws with swivels. Okay, what I've been doing is placing these little screws very lightly into these. Now, as you can see here, I've got a screw, a fishing swivel, and a hook. And place them fairly evenly across. On the other side, which I'm assuming has a diaphragm on it, the screws slightly poke through, but if you've rounded the ends off, they shouldn't pierce the diaphragm. I've never managed to pierce one, but if you do happen to pierce it, then, well, I'm afraid you'll probably have to re-diaphragm the frame. But that's life. Okay, now underneath you can see that they're all hanging. So we place, I've got a lead weight on each. It's 50, let's say 55 grams. So doesn't have to be exactly 55 grams or whatever, but something substantial that you can feel that the when you put enough of them underneath the stator, that it's holding it against the frame. And in my case, these were nice and handy fishing line lead weights, and they're 55 grams. So we have all these hooks, so I just go around and hang off each of them a lead weight, and you do it to all of them. Once again, a little bit of fishing line, that's all you need. Okay, so in this little sample that I've done, you can see what I've done. I've just hung them there, and the screw only needs to be in deep enough to be able to hold the weight, and that's all. But you do a lot of these. How many? Oh, at least 15 of them, at least. I'd be aiming for about 20 of them, and these are, what, 55 grams. And yeah, you can see what they're like. I haven't got a loose panel to actually show you, but that would be holding the stator against the frame reasonably well. In fact, quite well. This is the only way I know to save having to re-diaphragm the frame. If your diaphragm's in good condition, I reckon this is a much safer bet. But it does mean that one day you may have to re-diaphragm it anyway, but it could give you quite a few years listening pleasure before you have to think about it. If not forever. Okay. Enjoy the dangles.